Disney and Lucasfilm are currently expanding the Star Wars franchise, starting off with Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, a handful of live-action TV series, and of course the Clone Wars Season 7, and even the new Star Wars Trilogy. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, what's really exciting about not only Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, but also, of course, the other projects that will actually be developed in the years of 2020 and so on and so forth, is that Disney and Lucasfilm have a plan in place to really expand the Star Wars franchise well beyond the Skywalker saga, and even, of course, a new Star Wars mythology, if you will, that will bring Star Wars in a different direction. Now, on top of all of this, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about the future of the Star Wars franchise, and when it all comes down to their plans with the new Star Wars Trilogy and some changes that were made, this is where things begin to get very exciting for the fourth Star Wars Trilogy. Now, it's described that not only are Disney and Lucasfilm currently focused on a handful of live-action TV series for Disney+, but they are also fully invested in the new trilogy, also known as the fourth trilogy, where production is set to begin in its early stages in 2020. It's described that one of the big changes made for the new trilogy is that Disney has a plan in place to have only one director this time to direct all three films, as opposed to their original plan of having a different director for each and every movie by, of course, David Benioff and Davey Weiss. That was the original plan. It's explained that Disney knows it creates more consistency in the continuity by keeping one director on board, and that they are actively looking for the proper candidate. Additionally, it's explained that for the new Star Wars trilogy that not only are negotiations moving forward with Keanu Reeves and his involvement in the upcoming films, but that currently Disney is trying to get Anthony Hopkins on for at least one of the film's roles to star in for a major role, where it's explained that Disney saw his potential with his work in Westworld, and that J.J. Abrams had discussed the idea with Kathleen Kennedy, given that J.J. has had experience with Anthony Hopkins. Now, it's also said that he is the perfect choice to cast a certain character in the upcoming first film of the new trilogy that's needed, where Disney is said to be using their de-aging technology for certain A-list actors that will sign on for the roles of the upcoming films. Now, originally it said that Disney wanted to get John Williams on board for the 3 new Star Wars movies, and that there were even plans for John Williams to come back, and that he even had an interest. However, John Williams wants The Rise of Skywalker now to be his last Star Wars film he works on, and that a new composer will now be involved with the 3 Star Wars movies, written by David Benioff and Davey Weiss. So, let's go over a couple of parts about this. First things first, Anthony Hopkins. Such a legendary actor, I gotta say. I mean, he did a terrific job in Westworld, and let's not forget his classic movie, Hannibal. I mean, Anthony Hopkins, at the end of the day, really is a legendary actor, and I honestly can really imagine him in a Star Wars movie, and I can see exactly, where Disney and Lucasfilm are coming from. Now, there has been a lot of talk that these 3 new Star Wars movies are going to take place throughout different eras, and without a doubt, I think that they are aiming for the Old Republic / Knights of the Old Republic, since Kathleen Kennedy even talked about this over at Star Wars Celebration, since she said they talk about that all the time. Without a doubt, I think that Anthony Hopkins really does look like Valkorion, also known as Vitiate, from, of course, the Old Republic video game and the cinematic trailers and Knights of the Old Republic, etc. Now, Vitiate, you can really see how he could very well be a somewhat younger version of Anthony Hopkins, since they are going to be using de-aging tech on the new Star Wars trilogy. And this new Star Wars trilogy, one of the other big changes is, of course, that they are now going to stick with one director. So that's yet another big plus by Disney and Lucasfilm for kind of doing things the way it should have been done with, of course, the sequel trilogy. If you ask me, the sequel trilogy would have been more consistent, it would have been more rich, if you will, if we had J.J. Abrams do all 3 Star Wars films. Even J.J. himself said that, even if he did The Last Jedi, it would have been different, without a doubt. I think that fact that, when we have different directors going back and forth with different ideas, it kind of breaks things up a bit and doesn't make a lot of sense for certain story elements. So the fact that they are trying to not make the same mistake that they did with the sequel trilogy, of course, now with the new trilogy, They're going to have one director on board. Of course, what's really exciting is that Keanu Reeves and negotiations of him getting on board is moving forward. And let's not forget this big thing, is that John Williams was actually originally considered to be a part of the fourth trilogy, and he even had an interest, but as he was going through The Rise of Skywalker, now he's actually backing out of those movies and wants The Rise of Skywalker to be his last Star Wars film. And I don't blame him. I mean, he's getting up there in age, you know, he's in his 80s, so I'm sure he wants to just enjoy life and just enjoy himself. So they're going to find a new composer. We're not quite sure who that's going to be. Hopefully they get somebody as good as John Williams, but nobody can top John Williams. If you ask me, John Williams is Star Wars, so it's going to be a tough road to really find somebody that matches John. Now, like I say, this new trilogy is actually going to start production in early 2020. We're going to be hearing a lot more about it throughout that year, and of course leading up to its release date once it finally drops in theaters in the near future. Anyways guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.